So yeah, really excited to be talking to you guys today about Mercury Editor, something that I spend a lot of time talking about and working on both with our team and with our clients. Mercury Editor is a drag and drop editing solution built, of course, in Drupal, tailored completely to the needs of editorial and marketing staff, so folks who are working on content. Today, specifically what we want to cover is first, I just want to talk a little bit about what Mercury is and run through the key features of Mercury Editor. I want to talk about the module and ecosystem. This is a Drupal module. It's something you can download at drupal.org, so we'll kind of cover that. I'll talk about the status of the module. We're working towards stable release, which is slated for later in this quarter, and I'll kind of talk about some of the work that's happened to get us there and what still needs to happen to finish that up. Then we'll do a live demo. There's two things I want to demo. One is a client project, just to give everybody a sense for kind of what this is capable of, how Mercury works in actual real life projects. Second, I want to take a look at a Drupal 10 kind of right out of the box, fresh install, and use that also to talk about how to configure Mercury, how to kind of get that up and running for yourself. And then finally, we should have plenty of time for questions. If any of you all are interested, you can definitely subscribe, register for the Mercury Editor newsletter. Yeah, stay in the loop there. And we'll let you know as soon as there's a stable release as well. All right, so let me talk a little bit about the features of Mercury. Mercury is first and foremost a Drupal module. It's something that can be downloaded on drupal.org. It is free open source software. Mercury provides no code, drag and drop editing, again, specifically tailored to the needs of editorial staff and marketers. Mercury is built on custom component libraries. So the whole idea around Mercury is that content editors can choose from a custom component library and easily kind of drag and drop those components to build pages. Mercury provides a centralized means of managing styles across an entire website. We'll dig into exactly what that means as we get into the demo. And then finally, Mercury just provides a really streamlined UI for working with content, again, with drag and drop editing capabilities, really focus on the needs of editors, giving editors a really clear representation of the content they're working on as they're working on it. Mercury is, as I said before, free open source software. It's available on drupal.org as a Drupal module. You can go to the project page, just follow the install instructions. When we get to the demo portion of this, we'll basically be building from the point of having installed the module, and that's it. So fresh install just with the module installed. Mercury makes heavy use of the paragraphs module for the actual drag and drop component capability. It makes heavy use of layout paragraphs, which in turn provides, again, that drag and drop UI on top of paragraphs. And then finally, those two pieces are really managed by the layout API, which is a piece of Drupal core. And then there's also style options as a part of this ecosystem, which provides that centralized styles management, which we'll dig into here in a minute. We're getting really close to stable release, slated for later this quarter. So right now we're at Alpha 13. I think there's been 5 or so releases since the last time we did one of these demos. I'll just talk through some of the goals for stable. First, we want to make sure that Mercury works out of the box on any Drupal, any current Drupal website. So the idea is you can install Mercury and it just works, regardless of your current configuration. We want Mercury to be able to, Mercury should be able to be installed and uninstalled without impacting your content. So essentially what that means is you can choose to leverage Mercury. If at any point you decide that the authoring experience really isn't for you and isn't for your authors, you can simply uninstall the module. There's no impact to underlying content. There's no impact to your website's content whatsoever, and you can easily walk away from it. We want to see end-to-end testing with Cypress, so with the Cypress testing framework, just to help with code quality and to kind of manage quality of deployments. Finally, there's 2 pieces around accessibility, and I should say that all of the things we've covered so far are finished. as we move towards stable. We have finished a baseline accessibility review. There are accessibility-related issues in the issue queue on Drupal.org. So if anyone wants to see kind of what the outstanding issues around accessibility are, they can check those out. Next, we need to fix those issues, do a little bit more documentation on the project page on Drupal.org. And then finally, all this should be ready, as I said earlier, later this quarter. So we're getting close. Moving beyond stable, so what we're going to show today is live editing that, again, is built on top of paragraphs and layout paragraphs that provides that component-driven kind of live editing experience. We'd like to see that extended to other field types. That'll make more sense as I get into the demo, but essentially you could think, you see a live preview of your site. We want to be able to click directly on text and immediately be editing that text right in the context of that preview. Same thing with images, same thing with headings, and other field types. And we want to sort of roll out that experience sequentially, starting with text and images and then moving on to other field types. We want to build a UI for some of the governance controls that currently only really exist as APIs. So there are APIs in the underlying modules for controlling what components can be placed where. We want to build a UI around that so it's really easy for site admins and site builders to configure that. We have pretty quickly at our agency adopted single directory components as the kind of definitive way we approach front-end development. We want to build in direct integration between SDC and Mercury so that as you're creating Mercury components, those again immediately kind of push their variables into SDC components. And then finally, there's more we want to do with the template creation and editing experience. And we'll touch a little bit on how templates work today and some of the templating functionality that's already available in Mercury. We want to see that go even further. That is a very quick overview of kind of where we are, what Mercury is and kind of where we are in the development cycle. I'm going to transition now into a live demo. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Again, we'll start with a client project. So this is for a client called the Sanford Underground Research Facility. It's the largest underground research facility in North America. We've been working on a collection of projects for SURF, the acronym for Sanford. We've been working on a collection of projects. This is the first of those to have gone live. This project in and of itself is fairly simple. This is a website that markets or advertises a free STEM event that's put on once a year. And I'm just going to kind of go through this site and show what it's like to create content, again, using Mercury. So this is a Drupal 10 site. I'm logged in as an admin user. I'm going to go over to the admin content section. This is using the Gen admin theme. That's what's kind of providing these admin flyout menus. I'll click on add content. Actually, I'll go straight over here to create a basic page. Mercury Editor takes over the content creation and edit screens. So we're immediately launched into the Mercury Editor experience. The edit form, what would typically be kind of taking up the main window, is over here on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, we have a live preview of our content. This, again, is using paragraphs and layout paragraphs. That's what's providing this add section option. I'm going to just get started here, creating some content, add a new section. I'll leave that as a one column, go over to styles. All of these styles are developed specifically to the needs of each site and managed in a centralized YAML file. So in this case, we just have these simple kind of geometric background shape options. I'll click option 9, hit save. That new section is immediately dropped onto the page. Reach back here and find that plus button to add my first component into that section. I'm going to add a heading component, grab some text off screen. That component is immediately dropped into the page. We'll add another component here. This time we'll add the date and location component. Let's see here, 07/08 2023. Give this some text. Save. That component's immediately dropped onto the page. Again, all of this is manageable with these drag and drop controls. So I'm going to actually move this component, the second component I added directly below the heading. And then I'll keep going here. I'll add some text. Again, grab some text from off screen. And we'll drop this in. I'll add a link. And the link is just using styles provided from CK Editor 5. So we'll make this a link to the survey page and change that style to the yellow button, hit save. And again, we can see that immediately reflected. Once again, the order here isn't quite right. So I'm just going to drag this component up here. And now that's looking a lot closer to the actual live homepage. I'll add a new section. Again, a one column section. In this case, I'm going to add a video from the video library. We'll choose our video, hit insert selected, save, and the video is dropped onto the page. We'll keep going here. All of these components, again, can be dragged and dropped, rearranged on the page. I could move this video up into my other section if I wanted to. And I accidentally clicked on the video and it's playing. So I'll just refresh this page. When I refresh this page, it's actually going to start over. So unfortunately, yeah, I just lost my changes there. But just to keep going, I'll add a 3-column section. Actually, I'm going to quickly reproduce what I just did. So we'll start with a 1 column, go over to styles again, add a heading. And add this again, the date and location, 7, 8. We'll just move pretty quickly through this. And add some text. Great. Add a new section. This time I'm going to skip the media, which I called the problem a second ago. We're going to go to a 3-column design. And then I'm going to add some profiles into this 3-column design. And one thing that we wanted to support was the ability to actually make creative decisions in the browser. Let me show how that works. I'll start by adding Brian Mallow, go over to styles, choose the card style. All components can be easily duplicated quickly. Drag this component over, change this person reference to Chief Henry Red Cloud. Duplicate this again, drag this over. Once again, edit that person reference. Change that to Sam. Great, this is looking pretty good. These components are definitely derived from the design system for this project. So this would work. Ultimately, this client wanted to go with a different layout for the homepage. And again, we wanted to support making creative decisions right in the browser. So I'll kind of show how that works. We'll just add a section here, move one of our people up into that 1-column section, edit the person reference, change that style to featured, hit save. Do this again for the next. Again, edit that person reference, change to the default style, hit save. And then on this last section, I'm going to edit the section, change that to a 1-column section. This simply says, what do I want to do with that content that would otherwise be lost? It's in that 3rd or tertiary region. We're going to move that into the main content region, hit save. It's done that. We'll click edit on that person, go over to styles, choose again that default style, hit save. The only difference between these three is that the featured style is a little larger at larger screen sizes, and we can see what that looks like just by moving the Edit tab out of the way. One other thing worth noting is that mobile preview is built into Mercury. So we have these device options across the top. If I go to mobile, we can see immediately what this would look like at smaller screen sizes. All of these are configuration options. So the actual options you have for the different devices can be controlled right in the Mercury settings. And we can take a look at that here in a little bit. Great, so we have now basically built out the beginning of that homepage. I'll just hit save, click done. That'll kick us back to the main view tab. And again, this is looking pretty similar to what's on the homepage for the main site currently. And that hopefully gives everybody a sense for sort of how Mercury works at a really high level on an existing project. I want to transition now from working or from showing an example of an existing project or something that's kind of more customized to showing how Mercury works right out of the box. So this is a Drupal 10 website. I ran the install script for this 10 minutes or so before this demo. So it's a brand new site. There is no content yet in this platform or in this website. I'm going to go over to the modules page and just take a look at the list of modules. And we'll start just by talking about how to install and configure Mercury. Mercury Editor is installed. All you have to do, again, is just download and install the module. Let's take a look at the content creation forms. Nothing happens when you first install Mercury. Nothing is impacted. If we go into create a new basic page, this is just using, again, the standard default Drupal node add screen. Let's go over to actually two quick things. The first thing we need to do is configure a paragraph field for our basic page. We'll go to the admin structure screen, click on content types, go into our basic page, add a new field, make this an entity reference revisions field, which is the type of field necessary for paragraph references. We'll just call this simply content. Hit continue. Again, we'll make this a paragraph reference field, unlimited. I'm going to choose exclude selected below. There is a test module installed on the site, which installs a few very basic paragraph types. So those are all available here. These are just paragraph types. With this option selected to exclude the selected below and then not choosing any of these, it essentially means we're going to show all paragraph types wherever these paragraphs can be used. So I've hit save. I've added my new field to the basic page content type. I'll go over to manage form display. Scroll down and just ensure that we're using layout paragraphs for the form for content. Hit save. Go to manage display. And again, for content, I'm going to choose layout paragraphs. I'm going to hide the label for that. Hit save. Great. So now we'll go back and again add content and take a look at the basic page. So this is still just using the default Drupal node add form. Now with this layout paragraphs field, which provides a really easy way, kind of a drag and drop interface for working with paragraphs and with layout. Now to make this work with Mercury and to kind of provide that experience we were looking at on the Neutrino Day website example, all we have to do is go over to settings once Mercury is installed, go under Mercury Editor settings. Under content, we'll choose basic page. This simply says we want to use Mercury Editor for basic pages. Save the configuration, go back to create content, add a new basic page, and it launches us into Mercury Editor. I'll give this a title. We can see that title reflected immediately on our live preview. Again, where we're going with this, once we have stable release, is that you'll be able to click directly on this title and edit it right here in the context of this live preview. You click the plus button. This is just pulling from that list of components that we saw a second ago, the paragraph types that are configured for this website. I'll add a new section. Make this a 2-column section. I'll add some text in the left. And we'll add an image on the right. Great. And so that's dropped immediately on the page. Again, with drag and drop controls, the ability to move all of this around. And that's essentially how Mercury works. Super simple. When you install it, right out of the box, you're able to, again, have this kind of live preview capability for any content types that you've configured to use Mercury. I want to talk a little bit about some of the templating that's available right now in Mercury with the Mercury Editor Templates submodule. So I'm going to go back over to the modules page and find the Mercury Editor Templates module. Click that, and we'll install the templates module. I'll go back into the admin content screen, edit the content. As we showed a second ago, all of the components have this clone option. So we can easily clone a component. It drops the copy of the component right here onto the page, and then we can edit it as we will. The template functionality works similarly, but there's now this clone tool, or this stamp tool. I'm going to click the stamp tool. That loads this create a new template dialog. We're creating a template from the section. Give this a name. I'll just call it my template. Hit save, and that's now been saved to the template library. If I close out of the editor, create new content, click the plus button, we now have my template as an option. Click my template, and it drops that template in place. This is really just a starting point. So this is truly a template and not a library. I can rearrange this content any way I wish. It has no impact, no bearing on the template that was saved. I'll hit save and then exit back out of here. One other piece that we've made headway on with some of the later releases in Mercury is editing these templates with Mercury Editor. So if I go back to settings, and again, go to Mercury Editor settings. And we now have this option once we've installed the templates module. Mercury Editor template is an option under what we want to configure to use Mercury Editor. I'll just choose that or select that, hit save. Now, if I go back to add the admin content screen, we now have this Mercury Editor templates option. Click into Mercury Editor templates. If I edit this template, it again launches me into the Mercury Editor experience. We can make these templates as robust as we want. So you can create an entire page of content. If we just add another section here, again with a 1-column, maybe put some example text in here. I'll save the template and exit. We'll go back to our admin content screen, edit our page. Let's just delete this section. And when I drop in my new template, it drops in the entire template, including any other paragraph. So it's not just limited to that section. So you could really build out really fully formed, fleshed out templates to use in Mercury Editor. Great, so that's a quick look at the template functionality. One other thing I wanted to get into a little bit is content translation. So Mercury now also works with content translation in Drupal. Let me go back to the modules page. I'm going to enable the content translation module, which is in core. Once that installs, we'll go over to settings, down to regional, add another language. I'm going to add Spanish just as an example here. Great, so Spanish has now been added. I'll go back to region and language, go into content, language, and translation settings, and configure my content type to use translation. So I'm going to unselect article, select basic page, and I'm just going to leave all of these fields translatable. For those of you who might be familiar already with the paragraphs module, there's a couple different approaches to translation with paragraphs. The approach that's supported in the paragraphs, in the main paragraphs module, is symmetrical translations, meaning the translated content from one language to another has the same order of paragraphs. It's the exact same paragraphs. It's the exact same components. You're simply translating every single component. There is another possible approach to translations, which is asymmetric translations. If we leave this reference field as translatable, that's going to turn on the asymmetric kind of translation approach. And what that means is we can have a completely different set of components for Spanish as we do in English. And while that's not supported in the paragraphs widget that's in the paragraphs module, that is supported by both layout paragraphs and in turn by Mercury. So now I'm going to go back to, I've enabled content translation. I have enabled content translation specifically for the basic page content type. I'll go back to the admin content screen. And beside my new page, I'm going to click translate. It shows that we already have an English version. I'm going to click add on the Spanish version. This launches me into, again, Mercury editor. I'm just going to put something in the title here to denote that this is Spanish. Again, to denote that this is Spanish. And as I was saying before, with asymmetric translations, we can change the order of these paragraphs. We can add new paragraphs, and it does not affect the English version of this content. Hit save, done, go to the translate tab. We can see the Spanish version as well as the English version. And again, we see the Spanish version with our changes, including the footer, the rearranged components, and the English version unaffected by those. That's a really quick look now at how translations works with Mercury Editor. I think the last thing I'll just touch on is some of the more advanced configuration options in Mercury. To do that, I'm going to take a look at the Neutrino Day site. Again, we'll go into settings. Go down to Mercury Editor settings. And there are a few more advanced options here. One, we can add whatever we want as presets for that mobile preview. So we can add any screen sizes we want to. We just give each preset a name of the device and then the dimensions, the width and height of that device in pixels. I go over to the skip form settings. Skipped form allows us for any component to just skip the creation form altogether for the component. And I'll show what that looks like really quickly. If I go over to admin content screen, go back into my new page. We add a horizontal rule. It's dropped that horizontal rule onto the page without loading an edit form at all, without loading the component form at all. So there are some components that are so simple that don't really need that component form. And for those, we can choose to skip the component form, which is in that skip form settings page. We'll go over to menu settings. We can also completely customize the way the component menu groups different items, groups of different components. This is all done just with YAML configuration, dumped right into the configuration text area here. But this says we're going to have that our main layout group is going to be called layout, and that the components within that are just the section component. We have a content group This says which components go inside the content group, media group, which says which components go inside the media group. And again, if we take a look at our example, click the plus button, we can see how those are broken up. So we have the content group, we have the media group. Layout is not shown in here just because when I'm inside of a layout, the way this is configured, I can't add a layout within a layout. That's a configuration option in layout paragraphs, so you can certainly configure that to support nested layouts. We're just not doing so on this project. I click add section. Oh, that actually brings me directly to the section pop-up. If you could, so we would have the layout option in here as well, again, if it was configured to support layouts within layouts. And then finally, we'll just take a quick look at the dialog settings. Dialog settings just specify, let us specify specific configuration for specific dialog forms or for specific dialogues, component dialogues. So in this case, we're saying that we want the component menu, for example, to have the width of min content. We want the section form to have the width of max content. That's what's controlling the width of the section form, as well as the width of just the overall component menu, which is this menu right here. And that can be customized for any of the section forms. So essentially any form, any component form, we can customize the settings for that form in this screen. Okay, that is a quick overview of the options available in Mercury. And I think at this point, that is most of the options that are available in Mercury. I think that is about everything I have to show. I'll go back to this slide again. Welcome you guys to sign up for the newsletter, stay in the loop, and learn when, or be the first to know when we ship the stable release of this module.